All right. I surrender. I surrender. Um, I haven't done an online video in a month, almost a month, and I just kind of I want to share with you that I lost, I kind of lost the thread. It was like, what the hell am I doing? And as some of you know, my focus this last almost year has been around dads in recovery and this idea of supporting dads in recovery and supporting men in recovery, have happy families and I lost the thread of it. I just, my buddy passed away in September, and my last video was about him and his, how he was with his boys the last several months before he left, and he was such an example of a man in recovery who really put everything else aside in his last days to uh, give whatever he could in relationship to his boys, to be consistent with them, loving with them, and to build that relationship so them to know that he cared and loved them. Lots of times when men who are dads, my experience has been we can be kind of selfish and self-centered, and we forget a bit about our kids sometimes. If we're asked, we all want to have safe families. We all want to have happy kids and safe kids, and none of us want our kids to grow up to be addicts and alcoholics like us, and but uh, it's really easy to get distracted with business and other things, and lose our place a bit with the kids. And but for me, this last month or so, I was going to start another course, if you will. I was going to start another program for dads in recovery, and I just let it go. I thought, you know what, my goal is to, my passion is to help men in recovery be great dads. And they're, every man that I know wants that, and many of them are already that. They're, and so I've just changed my focus. I'm going to just, do videos and support men without asking for anything in return for, and just to give it away. And so if you're a dad and you're in recovery, let's talk. Because I want to be there and support all men and families. And sometimes I can say shit to men that your wife can't say to you, and your therapist can't say. Sometimes couples have gone to therapy and they're trying to figure out how to do it, and we're not great listeners, but I can say stuff. So that's my goal going forward, is just to I want to interview a ton of men on this channel, and show the example of what does it look like being a great dad. I've been very, very fortunate. I sobered up when my oldest daughter, was 6 months old, and I didn't know anything about being a dad. What could I know about being a dad? Nothing. I was, I kind of thought that my best piece was that I wasn't going to be a dad like my dad. Have you ever thought that? I wasn't going to be a dad like my dad. But I didn't know. One thing I knew for sure is that I had to stop using and drinking, and because I certainly couldn't be a dad if I was doing that. And that was, she was a great motivator for me, saved my life really, and I was ready for the 12 steps and ready for the program at that time. And although if you had asked me, here it is 42 years later, would I still be sober, I would have said no. Couldn't even imagine. Couldn't even imagine. But now, I'm so blessed. I have 3 kids, right? 3. That's wow. I have 3 kids, and been through a lifetime of ups and downs, and sometimes been, I think, giving and loving, and lots of times I've been selfish and self-centered, and in my relationship with my kids, but they're sober. 2 of them in recovery, and the other one doesn't seem to need it. He's got his path, and it's beautiful. You know, what else could we ask for? What else could we ask for? You know, there, you know, my, you know, that's where I'm coming from, I guess, is that I get to talk to my kids. I call them, they pick up. You know, I know guys that don't talk to their kids. Maybe they call them, but they don't pick up. You know, because they didn't, you know, put in the time. I think it's never too late. You know, does this subject even interest you? I mean, it must if you're watching to this point. You know, it's never too late. It doesn't matter how old your kids are. It's never too late to start to rebuild that relationship. You know, to build it even for the first time. You know, lots of men that I've met, you know, who I've worked with, their dads didn't show up. Maybe their dads weren't there ever. And I encourage them, like, if you're a dad in recovery, how's the relationship with your dad? You're a dad now, you have your own children. How's the relationship with your father? And what are you doing with that? Even if he's passed, you know, we have to kind of find a place for love in our heart for that guy. It's not easy because sometimes we heard bad shit about him. Anyway, that's part of you know, when I'm talking to men about being great dads, that's part of the thing that comes up a lot. Is, you know, well, Jesus, my dad was an asshole, or he was a, you know, a fallen down drunk, or he didn't show up, or he left my mom when I was 2, and all of those kind of things that I've heard. In my own case, you know, my dad was around. He also was an alcoholic. He was a very high functioning alcoholic, and you know, I think that overall I think he tried the best he could to be a dad. I was 4 out of 5 kids. I came from a time when families were bigger, and you know, so by the time it come along to me, there was, I think my dad and mom were pretty worn out. You know, my poor mom, you know, my she you know, lived in an alcoholic home, not her home, but you know, my family home was an alcoholic home, and so it was a struggle for her, for sure. You know, in our family it was a struggle. There was a lot of fear and trauma, and sometimes, you know, fights and all kinds of stuff. And so, you know, how do I take that role model and become, you know, the dad that I want to be? And where do dads go right now to talk about that? You know, it's not something we talk about in the rooms, really. And often you might have a sponsor to take you through the steps, but is he, you know, we're going to talk about this subject. Well, I want to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. And to hell with it. It doesn't matter. You know, I just kind of lost my way on how to do it with, you know, in a kind of a course model or that kind of thing. If you guys have any ideas, I'm open to them. I really am. So this is the deal. My passion, my commitment, you know, is to work with men who are dads in recovery and help them become the dad that they want to be, you know, in relationship with their kids. I think if we heal those relationships, it does so much for our society. You know, the return on investment there, recovery capital. We talk about recovery capital, return on investment in helping a man become a active dad in his family. You know, a loving, consistent, you know, fair dad in his family is you know, what greater asset can a family have than that? I mean, of course, it's not excluding mom's work, not excluding mom's work at all, you know, but dad, I'm here to help. So that's the deal, you know. So for if you watch this video, you got to this point, you know, how can you help this process? I mean, do you want to help this process? I want to hear from you if you do, you know, because I don't know how to take it from here, really, and I'm just going to keep doing these videos. And my commitment is to do, you know, 2 or 3 a week and talk about the things that have worked for me. And just back to, you know, my own dad, that relationship got healed. You know, and when I first sobered up, I was like on a, you know, kind of a mission to help him and sober him up. And then after a while, I just said, you know, I'm just going to love him the way he is. You know, and I was terrified of my father as a kid, you know, terrified. I remember wetting my pants, you know, when a couple of times when I got spanked. I was terrified, and but I found this place of love for my own father, and I think that that changed the relationship with my kids. So, if that's a tip, if that's something, if you're looking at your relationship with your dad and your relationship with your kids, how are you with your dad? Big question. You know, you may resist this one, but let's talk about it. How are you with your dad? Because how we are with our dads is kind of maybe how our kids are going to be with us. Let's break the chain. Okay, that's the beginning today. I'm back. I feel like I'm back. It's just like, okay, it took a while. The thread finally came. I needed to stop selling and just share. And I'd kind of lost it. So I feel like I'm back, and we're going to talk about dads in recovery. We're going to talk about happy families. We're talking about safe kids. And you have ideas. If you're a dad in recovery, I want to talk to you. We'll talk about your job but I want to do some online stuff too. I'd like to bring some men on and talk about how they are with their kids and families. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm happy to be back, and it's funny. I just been, like it just wasn't there, and now it came today. It was like just let it go, surrender. It doesn't, it'll all work itself out. So this is my mission to support men, dads, families in recovery. Love you lots. Cheers.